What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Outta Bounds podcast. I'm Oscar, joined by my good friend Nate here. We're back for episode 3 after a little hiatus after episode 2.
Yeah.
But we're back. Got a lot to cover today. March Madness starts tomorrow. Playing games start tomorrow. And then first round of games again start on Friday. I think we're just going to go into that. We both got our personal brackets pulled up. Nate, tell me a little bit about your bracket. What do you got going on this year?
Well, first, I'd like to start off with an apology. Because last time we met here, we talked about March Madness, and I said some things that almost made you throw your flag. And they were regarding two teams from the Big East, Villanova and Creighton. I said that I thought they'd both do well in the tournament. Thought they'd both have a full head of steam going into it. The following day, Colin Gillespie, Villanova's Wooden Award finalist, tore his MCL.
Hate to see it.
About 3 days after that, okay, maybe more than 3 days, but whatever the actual timeline was, then Creighton lost to Georgetown. Villanova lost to Georgetown in the Big East tournament. Then Creighton lost to Georgetown in the Big East tournament. So Villanova is without their star player, and Creighton now has a 5 draw, which would lead them to play Gonzaga if they get that far. So I would like to retract my statement before the tournament even begins in my confidence of both of those teams. I'd like to apologize to you guys for misleading you if you listened to me and believed me. I was wrong.
On behalf of both of those schools, I forgive you.
Thank you. That being said, the brackets are set. It's a pretty wild year this year. There's a lot that is up in the air. And I think part of that comes with, one, we didn't have March Madness last year. So we're a year removed from it. How much our upset's going to actually hit, what's all going to happen. Mm-hmm. And secondly, there are the big 4 teams, all the number 1 seeds, who are very good. But beneath that, Duke's out of the conversation. Kentucky's out of the conversation.
There's so much up in the air.
There's so much up in the air from 2 through 16. And that's what we're here to talk about today.
Yeah. All right, so as far as my bracket goes.
Let's hear it.
Obviously, as you guys can see, I don't got the ref shirt on today.
He doesn't.
Because I'm repping. I'm repping my boys in orange and blue. ILL, baby.
The Shambana man is here.
Call me the Shambana man, because winning the 2021 March Madness tournament this year is the University of Illinois.
Not a hot take, given their number 1 seed
They are
status.
going to trump the undefeated Gonzaga Bulldogs.
Wow.
In a game that the combined score is 137 points. If it comes down to that.
If it comes down to that. I mean, it has never been done before in the 64, 60, or 68 team format where a team has gone undefeated the entire year. It's happened before the switch to the 64 team format.
They have to lose.
But if Gonzaga were to win it all this year, they would do something that has never been done before, which is incredible. And
I just feel bad for them because they're going to come so close.
But I think if they were to play a team like Illinois, I don't know if they're winning that game. So I agree with you.
As far as the lower rounds, let me hit you with a couple
takes.
takes.
Let's hear all your takes first.
Let me hit you with a couple takes. You know what? I'm gonna scoot over here for a bit. I might get out of the frame, but I'm gonna pass you this flag over here.
All right.
If you don't like my,
I did forget about the flags.
Yeah. All right.
I don't know how much I'm gonna use this though, because I'm not sure about anything.
All right. Well, I'm gonna hit you with my takes and let's see if you like them.
All right. Let's go region by region. Let's start with the West here.
I'm so glad we're starting.
Anything you got?
I
know one of them already.
Making a Cinderella run this year to the Sweet 16, in which they will inevitably and unfortunately lose to the Gonzaga Bulldogs, is 13 seed University of Ohio.
In the pocket. I agree.
Let me tell you something about my beloved...
Jason Preston? Is that who you're about to talk about? The Bobcats?
Let me tell you something about my beloved University of Ohio Bobcats.
Maction.
They're a MAC conference juggernaut this year. In the preseason, before Big Ten basketball started, U of I's got a couple warm up games.
They do.
They come up against these Bobcats.
The Bobcats.
They only beat them by 2, I believe, 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Comes down to a very clutch bucket, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because Jason Preston Scored about 42, 44 points.
He did. He's an animal.
He cooked.
He is your definition Cinderella man. March Madness gonna carry his team.
If I had to pick one player who I think is gonna carry a lower seed into at least a Sweet 16 run, putting up absolute buckets on big teams, it's gonna be Jason Preston and the Ohio Bobcats.
And one thing to mention, at least, I'm not going to talk all the way to Sweet 16 because I don't know about that. But one thing to mention is Virginia, who they're playing first round. First of all, has a history of losing in the first round in famous style.
We saw that 2 years ago.
But
shout out UMBC.
Nonetheless, they are one of the few teams right now that is even questionable for the tournament because of COVID protocol. And there's a good chance that they might have to play on a weekend roster or some sort. Their game against Georgia Tech in their conference tournament was canceled because they have to do contact tracing. They have COVID positives. So if Ohio gets a matchup against a weakened Virginia team, sheesh. I don't dislike that take. I also have the Bobcats winning that game.
Yeah, Bobcats won 9 of their last 10.
Yeah.
On their way to the MAC conference title. Jason Preston, over the course of the year, was averaging almost 17 points, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists.
Yeah, dude's an animal.
A lot of 7s in there. He is going to cook.
Yep. He has I said this earlier, but has the Cinderella story. Went from high school, I think mom died, didn't have dad in the picture or something like that.
Yeah.
Made JUCO walk-on C team. Made a mixtape on Twitter.
Yeah.
Got picked up by Ohio and just balled out.
We're talking about a guy who senior year of high school averaged 2 points a game.
2.
Had to make a mixtape from Summer League highlights.
Yeah.
Sent it out to schools. Got one offer from Ohio. Led him to a MAC conference championship. This man, March Madness is all about the storylines. And this man definitely has one of the best storylines going into the tournament.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you have anything else in the West? Anything you want to talk about?
Nothing super crazy in the round of 64. A couple later things I think might happen. I want to talk about, I don't know if Iowa is going to make it that far. I could see them being a second. If they go to Sweet 16, I'm going to count that as a successful year, is basically what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think number 5 Creighton, like I said earlier, could get upset pretty early against Ohio or, lose to Gonzaga. USC is a team to watch out for, though, coming out of that region. They're
so dangerous.
They're the 6th seed, but
Evan Mobley.
I think they have a shot. If Gonzaga's not going to take the West, there's a good chance USC could be that team.
Moving on, let's go a little bit to the right here. How about the South?
Okay.
A team I like. There's another big upset I got.
Is it the 5-12?
It is not the 5-12.
Oh, okay.
I think Villanova still takes that game.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. You're talking about toothpaste team, aren't you?
Let's talk about Colgate.
Let's talk about Colgate. Why don't we?
Colgate, Arkansas. Apparently, it might be a shootout.
Yeah, that's what I've heard too.
Both teams averaging well over 80 points a game.
Yes.
Colgate, I think their season got shortened a little bit, but they went 13-1. Their net ranking is actually higher than Arkansas, according to the CBS matchup analysis right here.
I saw that.
I think they just come out and shock the world and as a 14 seed beat Arkansas.
So what I'll say about that matchup is I don't know enough about either team to be like, oh, I think this team's going to win. Right now in my bracket, I do have Arkansas winning, just because, difficulty of competition. I don't know. They're both shooter teams. But what I will say is I almost have more confidence taking Arkansas. If they win the first round, I have more confidence in them beating Texas Tech or Utah State than I have in them beating Colgate. I think it'll be an easier, I think if they win the first round, they're making the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
But there's a good chance they could just get outshot by Colgate.
Yeah, I think there's a good chance that up until the Sweet 16, Colgate's their toughest matchup.
Yeah.
Just because they're going to be one of those lower seeds that comes out and just dogs you and gives you one of those one of those March Madness games, that you love to see. That's the South though. Besides that matchup that I like, I think it's going to be pretty clear cut. I think Baylor and Ohio State both make it out of there, and then I actually have Ohio State making the Final Four over Baylor.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be a toss-up. I really like Baylor, but I haven't seen much of them. All I really seen of them like live or whatever is when I watched them play Illinois this year. But I know all teams are completely different than when that game happened. That was like beginning third of the season.
Yeah. You want to go East or Midwest? What do you like here?
Let's go East. We'll jump back to the left side.
All right, here's another hot take for you. Top of the East right now, number one seed is Michigan, correct?
You mean second round exit Michigan?
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh, I didn't mean to steal your thunder.
Because Michigan, probably whoever wins that playing game, they're probably going to win.
Right.
But I think in the second round, once they meet LSU, which I think LSU is going to be St. Bonaventure. I think if LSU comes out of that game, Michigan, they got that guy Livers who's going to be out, I think. And I think Michigan are just overrated as a team in general. They're 5 Big Ten games from this year that are just missing.
Yeah.
Because they had a COVID outbreak, Not to say Illinois should be the regular season Big Ten champs, but they should be.
Different debate, but yes.
That's a whole other episode. But if they make it to that second round, LSU, I think there's a good chance they beat the weekend Michigan team.
Yeah, and like you said, they're missing that Livers guy who's one of their better players, plays the forward position. Mm-hmm. And also, just down the stretch recently, they haven't been playing very well.
Yeah,
they lost to U of I, they lost to Ohio State.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really seemed like after the loss to Illinois, they would probably make a big run in the Big Ten tourney, but to not even make the final really says a lot.
Yeah. So again, we don't know how much injuries are going to impact them, if Livers are going to be a key player they're missing or not, but I also like the LSU take there.
Yeah. Another team I'd like to make the Sweet 16 as a kind of mid-seed is BYU.
You have mentioned that.
I did watch the WCC championship game.
Mm-hmm.
They lost to Gonzaga.
Obviously. Gonzaga.
They were up like 12 at the half. Late game that couldn't really make their shots, but I like their matchup against whoever wins that 11 seed play-in. I think it's probably going to be Michigan State.
I think it's going to be Michigan State too.
Yeah. I like them against Texas, and then I think they're going to lose to Alabama in the Sweet 16. But
okay.
that game against Texas is key.
See, my bracket is kind of different, and it's all contingent on what happens tomorrow. Because in my bracket, if UCLA wins the game tomorrow, I'm going to have BYU taking that game. But I think if Michigan State wins that game tomorrow, there's a good chance Michigan State could take that win. And the only reason I say that is they play in the Big Ten. They've had harder competition than BYU all year, bar Gonzaga. And Tom Izzo is just like... Michigan State and Tom Izzo are just like always there in March. They're always a team that you need to look out for no matter the seeding necessarily. Yeah, and if that just means they get one scrappy win and lose to Texas the next round, so be it. They were an 11 seed in the first place. But I think what happens tomorrow is going to be very key for BYU because I think if they get the Michigan matchup or Michigan State matchup, I'm taking Michigan State. And if they get the UCLA matchup, I'm taking UCLA. I'm taking BYU over UCLA.
Yeah, Michigan State's got a 5-6 record against ranked teams because a lot of those teams were big
conference games for them.
They had to, they just had to constantly play Illinois, Michigan, Ohio State, Wisconsin, Rutgers, Maryland, who are all in the tourney this year.
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, they're definitely their record doesn't speak to how talented the team probably can be. Mm-hmm. Because of the fact that they've had to play all those higher seeded teams just over and over again during the regular season.
Yeah. Another game in, what are we in right now, the East? Another game in the East that I am up in the air about is the Georgetown-Colorado game. Because part of me wants to take Georgetown. They're on a heater right now, and I think that heater could very much continue through.
I took Georgetown.
And I have Georgetown. But I kind of like Colorado too, and I don't know why. But part of me feels like Georgetown is just destined to crash.
I think that March Madness in general is, no matter like the seedings, the teams that are coming off winning their conference or just like going on a run in general tend to carry that momentum for at least one game. So I'm hanging on for that at least one game for Georgetown.
And I am too.
In beating Colorado and then losing to Florida State.
I am too, and that will come up in a later discussion that we have because I have another situation like that. But yeah, that's just another matchup to keep an eye out for because I think it's going to be a good game. If Georgetown could get that win, it would be pretty. It would be the classic 5-12. So
the classic
5-12.
All right, finally we're out here in the Midwest. We're home, baby.
We're home. Oscar, who do you have taking the Midwest?
Yee. ILL. U of I, baby.
Yeah.
They're taking the Midwest. They're taking the nation. They're winning it all.
Here's the thing. Is the Midwest region, I think, is the weirdest of all of them because on the top half of the bracket, you have Illinois, who I think is going to be a clear-cut at least Sweet 16 team, and Oklahoma State, who I think is also going to be a Sweet 16 team. Mm-hmm. But at the bottom half of the bracket, Syracuse, San Diego State, West Virginia, I think, is going to win. Clemson, Rutgers, and then Houston are all teams that I don't know much about personally, and I also think they could be just mix and match to any sort of combination of wins, and whoever comes out of that half would be a likely winner. I mean, I'm going to eliminate Cleveland State and Morehead State from that conversation.
Sorry if there's any viewers.
I'm sorry, fans of Cleveland State and Morehead State. But all the other teams on that half of the bracket, all it takes is one key loss from another team or a key win for that team, and any of them can make it out. And it completely
opens it up.
Completely opens it up for that Midwest region.
Yeah.
Midwest region final
at the bottom of that Midwest region, I got to show my Big Ten some love. I got Rutgers going on a little heater.
Yeah.
I think they're going to take Clemson, and then I think they're going to upset Houston in the second round.
So I
don't like Houston.
I have two brackets this year, and Oscar knows this. He's in my bracket pool. One of them is much more of this is what is likely to happen. This is what I could think could happen. Right now, the bracket I'm looking at is my upset bracket, and in my upset bracket, I do have San Diego State making it to the Elite Eight.
Why?
I don't know why, but I feel it. And I could be very wrong. Keep in mind, this is my upset bracket. It's my least likely to happen bracket. But I just like to keep an eye out for them because they're a team that I always recognize as in March Madness. They're always a team that's competing for it. Mm. They're a 6 seed this year. They're clearly pretty good. I don't know. They're just a basketball school. They don't have anything else except for the beach.
Yeah, it's true. Looking at my bracket now, I do have I got two 5-12 upsets on this side of the bracket. So, which one do you think is more likely, Georgetown over Colorado, or Oregon State over Tennessee?
That's the one that I mentioned earlier. Was because the Georgetown Colorado logic we had was Georgetown's on a heater. There's a chance it could carry over. Oregon State won the Pac-12 tournament.
Yep.
So if we're going by heaters and 5-12 matchups, and we like Georgetown over Colorado, I don't see how we can't like Oregon State over Tennessee. And again, in my upset bracket, I have both of those. I have them both called. So
I think it's going to be an upset heavy year.
I think so too.
Just a lot. I think there's just a lot in the air, a lot unknown with these.
Like we said, the top notch teams, the top four, we're not talking about those right now. Every conversation we're having is just the scrappy teams down below that we just don't know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. All right. For the sake of this, let's just stay on that bracket because I know you got two. What's your Final Four this year?
My Final Four this year, I have Gonzaga, Bama in one, and then you're not gonna like this, Arkansas, Illinois on the other half, and then I have Alabama winning the whole thing.
Really?
I do.
Who you have them beating?
Arkansas, actually.
That's really unfortunate because Arkansas are just going to lose to Colgate.
They could just lose to like I said, Colgate might be, until Illinois, Colgate might be their hardest matchup all game just because of their offensive power.
All right, on mine, I got Ohio State and Illinois. A little rematch of the Big Ten game.
Yeah.
I think my bracket is based a lot on storylines.
Mm-hmm.
Just because that's how March Madness is all the time, I feel like. And that'd be a pretty interesting storyline to see him play a little rematch in the Final Four. Obviously, Illinois would just win again, but I got them on that side. On the other side, I got the Gonzaga and Florida State.
I was going to say, in my other bracket, I have USC, Florida State, and then Baylor, Oklahoma State. And I have Baylor winning the whole thing. So
interesting.
I do like the Florida State play. I think they could be a sneaky team here.
Yeah, got to show Patrick Williams' alma mater.
Patrick Williams.
Shout out Patrick
Chicago
Williams.
Bull. But it's definitely going to be an interesting year. I don't think any bracket is a lock.
No. I feel like at this point, though, I start second-guessing myself so much. I feel like I should just not touch my bracket at this point anymore.
I have gone through probably like 50, at least 50 different bracket combinations just playing with who I think could win games and matchups.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's hurting my brain.
I don't see how anyone could ever get a perfect
I have
bracket.
done more just like fiddling on the computer with March Madness brackets the last 2 days than schoolwork the entire year. And I'm being completely honest.
Zoom U.
Zoom U.
Zoom U is real.
Zoom U is legendary.
All right, well that's a little
March Madness spiel, yeah.
Let's move on.
Oh, we're not there yet. I can't be upset yet. We're gonna talk about the Patriots first.
Yeah,
because they splurged.
Yeah, NFL free agency is starting up. It's today's New Year's Day, I guess, in the NFL.
Yeah, I don't really know what that means.
Saw it on SportsCenter today. I think it's just like the fiscal year resets, stuff like that. I don't know. So anyone who got a nice extension is feeling good today because they get a little pay raise this year. But the biggest storyline, of at the NFL offseason so far, really shocked me.
Yeah,
because this is something we've never seen from this team, specifically Belichick. The Patriots splurged.
They splurged.
They had funny money going into the offseason, and they are signing big names at every position that they had holes in last year.
And a couple of days ago, they signed Cam Newton. They re-signed him, and I was like, okay, they're keeping Cam. They clearly like something that's going on.
They're kind of in a transition period.
Yeah, I was like, they're trying to figure something out, and then they went out and just bought the entire league, and now I don't know what to think.
Yeah, I remember it started when they signed Jonnu Smith. Great tight end. And I was like, okay,
and I love that pickup.
Yeah, go out there, get Cam another target.
Yeah.
Then they signed Kendrick Bourne, who was good for the Niners last year. Nice little receiver. He was a big rack guy.
Yeah.
He'd catch the ball underneath sometimes, little lacrosse action, and then get you some good rack yards. He's a quick guy. And they signed Nelson Aguilar. I'm like, okay, they're loading up the offense a little bit.
Right.
Some guys who had decent years last year. And this year can really step it up. I think Nelson Aguilar, in the right system, can be a number one receiver.
I agree.
He had some great games on the Raiders last year.
In Philadelphia, he's known for that famous drop. But then he went to the Raiders and he was fine. Yeah. I think it's a system thing, but it's going to be interesting to see how he plays out in New England. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and then they just went out and got Hunter Henry too.
Yeah,
and it's like you're just getting all the tight ends.
Oh, okay.
I don't see any reason why a team would need Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry on the same team.
Well,
definitely hurts both of their values fantasy wise.
Right.
I wouldn't like either of those probably.
They're gonna be split.
Maybe a couple weeks in, see who's the number one guy, but they're just loading up. They signed Matthew Judon. They re-signed some of their key guys. Tender and some second year guys, and they say you don't win games in March, but I think Belichick may have won himself a couple games.
Yeah, I think he did.
Unless
they're just spending so. Here's the deal: none of these guys, except for you could argue Jonnu Smith and maybe Hunter Henry, are like headlining guys. Mm-hmm. So did he just splurge on mediocrity? We don't know that. Mm-hmm. I think it's gonna be interesting to see how it all shapes up because I could very well see this being a 3 or 4 win swing for them, but I could also see it being not very effective at all.
Yeah, and with the Dolphins team kind of being up in the air this year because it looked like they were on the cusp of being playoff contenders, getting really good at the end of last year. And then they look like they might be getting Deshaun Watson, making a deal for him. And then they, cut Kyle Van Noy, who was one of their better defensive players last year. But he was getting a lot of money this year. The cap is absolutely terrible this year because the league lost some money. And then, they're trading some guys away, and it looks like, we don't really know what's going to happen to them this year. It almost seems like the Patriots are just, making signings and filling up the team to be the second best team in that division.
Yeah.
Behind the Bills.
Yeah, behind the Bills, yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see. But great example of a team doing well in free agency.
We have another example on the opposite side of the spectrum of a team that botched it. And this is a very Chicago-heavy viewership. So I think we all know that we're talking about the Chicago Bears.
Welcome back to another episode.
Booty cheeks!
Welcome back to another episode of two Bears fans complaining about the Bears. This is going to be an interesting segment.
Andy Dalton. Let's just say his name right now. Andy Dalton.
Why? Why?
Here's the deal. If you're signing if you're the Chicago Bears and you're in need of a quarterback, historically, through your whole franchise.
Why?
If you go out and you sign a quarterback, it better be to make your team better, make them contenders for the NFC, contenders for the Super Bowl, whatever.
Why?
We had talks of Russell Wilson said he wanted to get traded here. Deshaun Watson was a free agent. There wasn't much that blossomed there. But there were good quarterbacks on the market that if we were like, okay, we need to turn ourselves around, get good, sign a quarterback, we go through that, and we pay the price for it. And I know earlier in a podcast I have mentioned that I would prefer the Bears tank. And yes, what they're doing is going to lose them games, but you don't need to spend $10 million to tank. The whole point is you don't.
Why?
I have pulled up stats here. In 2020, Andy Dalton.
Far from
Deshaun Watson.
So far.
Had 14 touchdowns and 8 interceptions, right? Not very good. He played 11 games. He was back up to Dak Prescott. Dak, we all know what happened there. Nick Foles, the quarterback who we already had on our team.
Who's also getting a lot of money.
Had 10 touchdowns for 8 interceptions through 9 games. So, a little bit less. Mitch Trubisky, who we're going to be letting go, had 16 touchdowns for 8 interceptions through 10 games. So of those quarterbacks, yardage and stuff were all fairly similar. Of those quarterbacks to win, I hate to say it, but Mitch Trubisky kind of looked like the guy. That is very rarely something that I will say, is that Mitch Trubisky was the guy to win. But of those three.
Look at Australia numbers, yeah.
But the value that we're getting for Andy Dalton for $10 million is what we would have already had playing Nick Foles at starting quarterback, in my personal opinion. Mm-hmm. And if we wanted to just lose and tank and whatever, then we would need to blow up our defense. Just don't sign anybody for $10 million.
Probably cut Nick Foles.
Yeah, keep some sort of quarterback that's going to lose us games. But the signing of Andy Dalton is exactly what we didn't need to happen.
And as a now depressed Bears
That's fan, my little depressed Bears fan rant.
As a now depressed Bears fan, I did see some reports flying around on the Twitter sphere earlier today that made me even more depressed.
Oh, I haven't seen anything.
And it's that due to the cap reasons, everybody's getting cut.
Right.
A beloved Chicago Bear is owed almost $20 million next year. And that Chicago Bear is Kyle Fuller.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of things are indicating that they might have to cut him due to the Andy Dalton signing.
We chose Andy Dalton over Kyle Fuller is essentially what it came down to.
Who probably should be spending his final years of his career in Chicago.
Yeah, he should be a Bear for life, I think.
He should retire. He probably will have to, unfortunately, sign a one-day contract with the Bears out of nowhere in the offseason, whenever he decides to hang the cleats up.
Right.
He's probably going to have to do that now because the Bears are spending what can be up to $13 million.
Yeah, $30 million in incentives.
On Andy Dalton.
And I know right when the Andy Dalton news hit yesterday, I looked at my phone, I breathed a sigh of disappointment, and just thought, that's the Bears. That, I wasn't even surprised. I was just mad, but I wasn't surprised. And then a couple minutes later, I got a notification from Bleacher Report, I think, that said the Bears talked to the Seahawks about Russell Wilson, and the Seahawks said, we're not giving him up.
Mm-hmm. And
for the right price, I think we could have gotten them to give him up.
The alleged offer leaked today. It was something like 2 firsts, a third, and 2 starters. Which I'm guessing one of them was probably Kyle Fuller.
Kyle Fuller, yeah, there was talks of that.
Because he's making a lot of money, so is Russ, and
the Seahawks need defense.
The Seahawks need defense. They had one decent DB last year.
Right.
It was Shaq Griffin, and he just signed with the Jags.
He did.
So, It's just sick and tired.
It begs the question: what is going on above the player level in that organization? We as fans see what's on the field, but Matt Nagy, Ryan Pace, and the McCaskies and everything, we don't know what's going on there. But what is happening to where we are the third biggest city in the country, probably one of the largest fan bases in the country? Players should want to have that sort of fan support. They should want to come here. But for some reason, something happening in management and up is making it not likely that we're going to get anybody. And you can see that exactly with Allen Robinson. Perfect example. He's one of the most beloved Chicago Bears right now. The city loves him. I see everyone tweeting like, oh, re-sign Robinson, re-sign Robinson.
He's the most beloved Chicago Bear that hates the Chicago Bears.
He got franchise tagged and immediately liked a tweet that said, along the lines of, franchise tags are the worst.
Yeah. And according to sources close to his agent that I saw a couple days ago, he has no intentions to sign the franchise tag.
Why would you? Why would you? Especially if you're playing for a team who's giving you Andy Dalton to throw to you.
Yeah.
He could be, I don't know if he is on the Bears, could be a top 5 wide receiver in the league, in my personal opinion, with the right guy throwing to him. Mm-hmm. Nick Foles, Mitch Trubisky, Andy Dalton. Those are the people that he will, if he signs the franchise tag, which he won't. Those are the people in his Bear career that will be throwing him the ball. None of them are quarterbacks that are going to make wide receivers want to stay.
I just feel bad because before that, it was Blake Bortles.
Yeah. He had Blake Bortles before that.
Get this man to QB.
That's why he's going to Baltimore.
Wherever he
that's why he's going to Baltimore.
Robinson, I know you're going to see this. I hope you end up with a good quarterback.
We wish you all the best, from Bears fan to ex-Bears player. We love you, but you deserve better than what we have to give you here in Chicago.
And especially
fire Matt Nagy, fire Ryan Pace,
please. And when it comes to NFL teams in the off season, I think the biggest thing that comes out of it, regardless of whether a team is signing players to be good or whether they're tanking, is that the end goal, the major goal of like their, let's say, short-term to 5-year plan is clear.
Yeah.
With every move. We look at the Patriots, for example, because we just talked about them. Their short-term goal is to immediately improve off of last year, and their long-term goal is we've signed these players to 2-3-year deals. So if this little short experiment doesn't work, we can easily blow it up and restart from scratch.
And the exact thing going off of that is screwing us, and I hate to say this, I love having him on our team. I love it. I've loved it the past few years. Khalil Mack, the signing with Khalil Mack made it that our championship window was until the end of his contract, mm-hmm. right? So we're basically forcing ourselves to be competitive to that point. Mm-hmm. And we had a great defense 2018. We had a great defense. We had an average defense last year.
It was all right.
It's all right. But when we have a player like that who we gave up so much to get and his contract is long enough, if that's not a championship window on every facet of the game, then it's a waste. And the issue was we were championship window on defense, but we were first-round pick window on offense.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but because of that signing, we were sort of screwed from being able to rebuild or like get prospects, whatever, get good young guys in our program until he's gone. Mm-hmm. And it's just the way that it is.
Yeah, you look at everything the Bears have done in the past 2, maybe even 3 years, and if you look at those moves and ask what is like the end goal here, what's the short-term plan, what's the long-term plan, you can't tell. I can't tell if they're trying to win games or not. Because if they were really trying to win games, they would have gone all in for Russ. Right. They would have gone all in for Deshaun Watson. They would have maybe not gotten Nick Foles last year, try out Mitch for another year or two, and then if that doesn't work out, draft a QB, trade some big contracts, free up the cap room, and just reset. Yeah. Because that's what teams do. That's what you're supposed to do.
That's the way the managerial game is played.
Yeah.
We're really bad at playing it.
And, I don't want to sit here and act like I know better than people who get paid a lot of money to actually run NFL
I'm sure
teams.
there's so much more that goes into it than what we know. But from what we know.
But from what we're seeing now, there is no plan here except to find a decent QB and not draft one.
You put it perfectly when you say, I know that you say it, is the Bears are never willing to be the team that loses to get better.
Yeah, no.
You've always said, and I agree with you, for some reason, we would rather have an 8-8 year where we get the 20th pick overall as opposed to 2-14 year, 4-12 year, something like that, where we get a super high pick. And in football, sometimes all it takes is one super high pick, and especially with us, we need the quarterback. That could change the direction of the franchise. But we're not willing to make that risk.
Yeah, I've said it so many times before, off air, that Ryan Pace and the people in those upper levels of the Bears organization are just too proud. I think.
I agree.
I just don't think they realize that Bears fans in the city of Chicago, they're gonna ride with the teams. And they're going to be there in the bad years because they've seen it happen with other teams where they tank for a year, they lose games, they go through a couple years maybe of bad seasons, but then eventually young players develop, draft picks work out, and then you build up that kind of culture in that team to where free agents want to come there.
And another thing that I'd like to point out, especially about this year being the signing that we got Andy Dalton, next year we are supposed to have a very hard schedule. Like, if you've looked at it, we're playing, at least, conference championship level teams for, 12 of our 16 games.
Yep.
Next year would be the perfect year to just throw in the towel and tank and be like, all right, we were not going to do great this year. We're playing really tough teams. That's okay. Lose a year.
Yeah.
But we didn't do that. And instead we're going to go probably 5-11 and get an 11 overall pick or something, just because that's the way the Bears are. And I hate the fact that I love the Bears.
Yeah, and due to the Andy Dalton money that they're throwing around now, after all the players getting cut and after the salary cap was confirmed to be $182 million this year, as of right now there are two teams still above that cap level. Is the New Orleans Saints and is the Chicago Bears. Every other team has been able to figure it out, be contenders, win Super Bowls under that
less
level.
Money than we are spending.
Under that level. So when you talked about how sometimes it takes 1 year for a team to completely turn around like that, great example this year, Jacksonville. They've signed guys this year. They signed Shaq Griffin. They're going to get Trevor Lawrence. They're going to draft. They're going to be a draft-heavy team this year. I don't see them making a lot of other signings.
Right.
But immediately next year, they could win games.
Yes. More than the Bears will,
Way
honestly.
more than they won last year because they won one last year.
Yeah.
But automatically, when you do it the right way, like Jacksonville did, which, I hate to call tanking the right way.
But that's the way it works. There's no way to consistently be the number one team in the league.
In the NFL and in other professional leagues like the NBA, there's teams that are not constantly, but more years than most contending. They're attracting free agents. They're a big market. You have the Lakers, you have the Warriors, the Celtics, stuff like that. And then there's that echelon of teams. And then there's teams that go through this natural cycle. I feel like it's almost a natural cycle of you try it out, you contend for a year or two or for a while, but eventually you fall off. You have to sometimes blow up the roster, stock up some picks, free up cap room, and then you just go again. And especially this offseason with the way free agents are signing everywhere but Chicago and I think it's just well known that players don't want to play for Chicago right now. They are in the best position out of any team to start tanking right now.
I'm looking at the schedule right now. Of our 16 games, 12 of them are against teams who last year were in the playoff picture until at least week 17. Some of them, a.k.a. the Buccaneers, were Super Bowl champions. Some of them, the Arizona Cardinals, had one loss that cost them a playoff bid. Mm-hmm. The only 4 games we have that aren't against teams that were in the playoff picture last year are our 2 against the Lions and our 2 against the Vikings. 2 against the Packers and every out-of-conference... Oh, I guess the Bengals are in there too. But other than that...
We're going to lose to the Bengals.
Yeah, we are going to lose to the Bengals because they're going to have Joe Burrow.
Yeah, he's going to be in his second year. They're gonna stock up on both lines in the offseason and the draft this year.
My point is, we're not going to be at the competitive level of all these teams that we're playing. We should have decided this was the year to tank.
There's not even a chance I think we beat the Lions.
Yeah, there might not even be a chance we beat the Lions.
They got Dan Campbell running that team now.
Man,
that man
bite
is
at the
scary.
kneecap. Bite at the kneecap.
That man is gonna bite the kneecap of every Chicago Bear on that Monday night or Thursday night that we play them.
As long as it brings Tyler Bray into the game.
Yeah.
Takes out Nick Foles, takes out Andy Dalton, Tyler Bray.
You like Tyler Bray?
No. If you're third string to these 2 guys, oh my gosh.
Give Tyler Bray a shot.
I'm down for it.
Give him a couple snaps.
We gave him like half a possession last year, right?
Yes.
It wasn't very pretty, but in short, I once again am disappointed with the Chicago Bears. Mm-hmm. And that's all I have to say.
Really. If we wanted to summarize this episode in a couple seconds, because I think we got to wrap it up soon.
We do have to wrap it up soon.
It's both an amazing time and a terrible time to live in the Chicagoland area.
Yes. Because to be a fan of Illinois sports.
Let's do a quick Illinois sports run through. U of I, 1 seed in the tourney. Loyola Chicago, 8 seed in the tourney.
8 seed in the tourney.
Cubs, probably going to be aight this year. Going to be all right.
Going to be aight this year.
White Sox, going to contend for a World Series this year.
Hopefully. Not according to their spring training, but hopefully.
Spring training's a little rough.
keep going.
And then there's just the Bears.
And Bulls, playoff contenders.
Bulls on the rise. On the rise for sure.
Hoping for an 8 seed.
Exactly.
Blackhawks are also on the rise again. Had a few down years.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the Bears.
It's just the massive, intricate market that is Chicago sports is just a huge balance scale for anyone that's involved in it.
You know it's bad when I'm scrolling through like social media. I follow a bunch of sports pages and stuff, and they're like national sports pages. Mm-hmm. And on the national level, I'm seeing people comment on pictures, posts, and videos saying like Bears fans are crying. Right? Like people know us as the franchise that is screwing ourselves over.
We are down bad. We are down horrendously.
Atrociously.
We are down heroically.
Heroically?
Yeah.
All right.
We are down so bad when it comes to the Bears. And you know what? I hope they prove us wrong.
I am praying to God that I am wrong.
I hope they prove us wrong.
But I will say...
I hope Andy Dalton has like a Pro Bowl year. I hope he does well. But all signs are pointing towards the Bears' demise.
Yes. And those signs are due to the Chicago Bears. Like, the Bears are shooting themselves in the foot.
Yep. I think that's a good time.
That's
a good place to call it,
yeah. I can't talk much more about the Bears. Yeah. I'm upset.
Thank you guys for tuning in for another week. Sorry for the quick break we took, but we'll be back next week for sure. There's a lot happening right now. By next week's episode,
we'll have the round of 32 to talk about.
We'll be in the heat of March Madness.
There might be a very college basketball heavy next few weeks of the podcast, but that's okay.
We'll either be, bathing in our success, or we'll be just regretting every pick we made in the first round.
Yes.
So we'll see how that goes, and we'll see you guys on the next episode. Thanks for watching again. We'll see you next time. Peace out.